What was first just a dream has become a frightening reality for those who may oppose us.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. So, the Ahsoka finale is approaching, and I want to talk about how it's all going to end and how it's going to set up Dave Filoni's new Star Wars movie and why Ben Solo, Jacen Sendulla, and Din Grogu are going to be at the center of it all. And I just want to remind you guys about our brand new merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where me and the ScreenCrush staff designed the shirts ourselves. We've got a lot of really fun Ahsoka-related products like the Master and Apprentice Family Tree poster and tapestry, the Say No to Death Sticks, Go Home and Rethink Your Life, the High Ground, Hello There, Original Trilogy, Prequel Apologist, Thank You George, and many more. Shopping our merch store is the best way you can directly support our channel. And guys, once again, just thank you for watching. This is not my channel, it is our channel. So, as we discussed in yesterday's video, I think the bulk of the season finale is going to focus on what's going on with Baylan Skoll. There's a mysterious force calling to Baylan on Peridea.
Something calls to me.
A power that is likely tied to the ancient Force users called the Zeffo and the mysterious realm called the World Between Worlds. That's actually a great video, you should really check it out. But then there's the question of Thrawn, the weird caskets he's loading up into his ship, and our journey to what will likely be a theatrical adaptation of Heir to the Empire.
Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
Wait, what's Heir to the Empire?
Alright, so back in the early 1990s, a few years after Return of the Jedi came out, there was a lot of great novels that followed the further adventures of Luke, Han, and Leia, and others after they defeated the Galactic Empire. And the first and best of these post-Jedi stories was the Heir to the Empire trilogy by the great Timothy Zahn. This is where we were introduced to a surviving Grand Admiral of the Galactic Empire called Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thrawn takes control of the remaining remnants of the Empire and was determined to retake the galaxy. In the book, Luke is now a Jedi Knight and working to rebuild the Jedi Order. Sound familiar? Leia and Han are married, expecting twins, and they are very involved in the New Republic. So, when Thrawn arrives, naturally, we see Luke, Han, and Leia jump back into action and take on this new threat. Now, it is likely that Ahsoka, Hera, Ezra, and Sabine will be taking that center stage in this theatrical showdown with Thrawn, which makes sense canonically because they fought and defeated Thrawn during the show Rebels, which takes place before A New Hope. But it's still kind of weird to think that Luke, Han, and Leia wouldn't be playing a major role in this fight against Thrawn and a resurrected Empire. In our review video, we discussed that Disney really needs to recast the big three, Luke, Han, and Leia, because they're at the heart of Star Wars, and it just doesn't make sense that they wouldn't be involved in this live-action version of Heir to the Empire. And we've got another video coming out very soon about why Luke should be recast and should be center in the saga. But you know what? We may have actually gotten a hint that Han, Luke, and Leia will be returning in the Heir to the Empire movie. Nira592 on Twitter pointed out that in this scene from Ahsoka, we can see some names displayed on Baylan's wristband. Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, R2-D2, C-3PO, and Ben. This could be a wink and a nod to fans that these original trilogy heroes will be returning soon to join the fight against Thrawn. And the most interesting name on here has to be Ben.
Yeah, what's that about? Is it like Ben Kenobi?
Actually, buddy, I think it's in reference to Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren. During this time, Ben would have been around like 4 to 6 years old at the time of the Ahsoka series. And we know from the Boba Fett series that Luke has just finished building his Jedi training temple. So I think that in this Heir to the Empire movie, we could see the very early days of Ben Solo and him showing an interest in training with his uncle Luke. We could also see the son of Hera and Kanan, Jacen Sendulla, begin his training with Luke. Now, the Ahsoka series has shown that Jacen has an interest in learning the ways of the Jedi, like his father before him.
You have a training room in your starship? Will you train me?
No.
And we've also seen that he already has a strong connection to the Force when he was able to sense Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds.
I heard you fighting.
Now, speaking of the World Between Worlds, I want to jump back over to Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine for a second. We have talked about how I think that the season finale of Ahsoka will focus on Baylan and the destruction of the World Between Worlds. I think that Thrawn, the Night Sisters, and their undead army, which we talked about that undead army in this video right here, by the way, I think that they're going to make their way back to the main galaxy via the Eye of Sion, and that our heroes will be left stranded on Peridea. But I think the World Between Worlds will be their ticket back to the main galaxy to take on Thrawn. Now, we have seen Ahsoka and Ezra both have interactions with the World Between Worlds before, and they've also discussed the dangers of using this power to tamper with the space-time continuum. I think we'll see them pass this same knowledge on to Baylan while he attempts to rewrite all of time. And when he tries that, we'll see the destruction of the World Between Worlds. But just before it collapses, we could see Ahsoka and the gang jump through a portal. I also have a theory that this is going to free Palpatine's spirit, which I discussed in this video. You should really check it out. Portals in the world between worlds can not only send you to different places throughout the universe, but also different times as well. I think we'll see Ahsoka and the others land back in the main galaxy, perhaps on Lothal, Ezra's home planet, and the portal he first went through to get to the world between worlds. But when they arrive, they will learn that they have been missing for years, and that Thrawn has begun his new war to retake the galaxy and reform the Empire. Now, we have speculated about Thrawn's alliance with the Night Sisters and what he's getting out of that. One of my favorite theories is that they're going to resurrect people from the dead, because we have seen the Night Sisters resurrect people in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. They could be resurrecting dead Night Sisters that were killed during the Clone Wars, or Thrawn could resurrect Imperial personnel and stormtroopers, and he will have rebuilt a significant portion of the Imperial Navy. This would also be similar to the Heir to the Empire novels, where Thrawn restaffed the Empire from clones that were created at Mount Tantus. So, along with the Imperial warlords that we saw in Mandalorian Season 3, this resurrected Empire will have succeeded in taking control of many systems in the Outer Rim, and they are now getting closer and closer to their planned attack on core worlds like Coruscant. That's the home world of the New Republic government. Now, speaking of the Mandalorian, I think that we could see Thrawn's taking of the Outer Rim worlds take place during Mandalorian Season 4, further laying the groundwork for the Heir to the Empire movie. It's been said that we will get the 4th season of Mandalorian before this big culmination film. So, I think that while Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine are missing, we'll see Hera and Carson Teva recruit Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, and the newly formed Warriors of Mandalore to take on Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, keep in mind, though, that the planet of Mandalore is in the Outer Rim. So, while Mandalore may have an understandable contempt for the New Republic, it would be in their best interest to work with them to stop Thrawn's invasion. Also, there's no lost love between Mandalore and the Empire, I can tell you that. One of the New Republic's biggest weaknesses is their lack of a military, so the Mandalorians could serve as that much-needed fighting force to save the New Republic.
This is the way.
I think we'll also see Boba Fett, who is also in the Outer Rim world of Tatooine, pull together bounty hunters and crime lords to join the Mandalorians and the New Republic in their fight to save the galaxy. Remember, this movie is supposed to culminate all of these shows: The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and maybe even Skeleton Crew. Now, the Star Wars fan base is all over the place right now. You've got fans who love the Disney era, you've got fans that hate it, and there are more nuanced fans who are mixed on things like the sequel trilogy and spin-off movies and shows like Ahsoka and Solo. And you've got die-hard fans who know this guy's name and what kind of ship this is. But you've also got more casual Star Wars fans like your mom, who love Star Wars but maybe haven't seen Rebels or Clone Wars, and they don't know exactly when, like, the Andor series takes place.
What's your point?
Well, what do all these fans have in common? What new character can bring these hardcore fans, casual fans, Disney-era skeptics, and Disney-era defenders together?
Boba Fett?
No, dude, Grogu, or to the layperson, Baby Yoda. Everybody knows Grogu. Everybody loves Grogu. He is, without a doubt, the most popular and beloved character to be created in this new era of Star Wars. He is also the center point to all these stories. He's trained under Ahsoka. He's trained under Luke. He's currently a Mandalorian apprentice. He's fought alongside Boba Fett. He's gone toe-to-toe with an Imperial warlord. I mean, the guy has done it all. And he connects not only all of these stories and characters, but he also connects all of the fans. And he's definitely going to have a major role to play in the Heir to the Empire movie. So, to recap, I think that the Mandalorian Season 4 will show Hera and the rebels like Carson Teva and even Luke, Han, and Leia turn to the Outer Rim syndicates and the Warriors of Mandalore to help stop Thrawn's invasion, while the New Republic will continue to ignore that threat. We have to remember that come time of the sequel trilogy, the New Republic still seems to be as incompetent as ever. So incompetent that Leia has formed a military of her own, the Resistance, to protect the New Republic from the First Order. So it's clear that whatever happens with the return of Thrawn, it will not sway the New Republic to take the return of the Empire any more seriously than it has before. I think we'll see many senators, like Senator Ziono, argue that Thrawn's taking of the Outer Rim should not concern the New Republic, and we could even see Chancellor Mothma getting painted as a warhawk for wanting to go after Thrawn. Mothma will take the side of Hera and Leia and insist that they must take military action against Thrawn. This will then result in Mothma being removed as Chancellor, just like she was removed from the Senate in Rebels.
I've been called a traitor for speaking out against a corrupt galactic Senate.
We'll then see her replaced with someone incompetent enough to allow the First Order to rise to power. Somebody like Senator Ziono. And while all this is going on, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra will be in a time limbo because the portal they went through in the world between worlds sent them slightly into the future, a few years into this new war with Thrawn, a war that is definitely going to have a lot of bloodshed.
What was first just a dream has become a frightening reality.
Now we have tons of characters here: Grogu, Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra, Thrawn, Hera, Jacen, Boba Fett, I could go on. And these are all characters we don't hear a peep from in the sequel trilogy. So I do think this Heir to the Empire movie and all the shows that precede it will perfectly set up the sequels, the formation of the First Order, and the return of Palpatine.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
But I'm not entirely sure where all of these characters have gone come the time of the sequel trilogy.
Dead. They're all dead.
Doug!
Just saying.
I mean, yes, we will likely see some of these characters bite the dust during their war with Thrawn. And it is worth mentioning that all of this is taking place like 20 years before The Force Awakens. So we'll likely see some characters die. Characters such as Din Djarin.
This is the way.
No! No! No!
I think after 4 seasons of The Mandalorian and this culmination movie that Din's story is going to come to a natural end. And I think the same could be true for characters like Boba Fett and Bo-Katan. These characters are warriors, so it would be fitting if they died in battle fighting for a good cause. Sabine comes from that same Mandalorian background, so maybe we'll see her die as well, but I doubt it. It'd be pretty dark if we saw all of these characters die in a single movie. And that is why I think this Heir to the Empire movie may actually end up being a trilogy, and it may even have some spin-off films and shows along the way. Like, I want to see this storyline told over like the next 10 years. And really, we've got like 20 years to play with here before The Force Awakens takes place. So I hope that Dave Filoni is given the opportunity to give us a whole new era of Star Wars told between the original and sequel trilogies. Now, speaking of all these characters and where they'll go, we've also got Jedi characters like Jacen, Ezra, Ahsoka, and Grogu. And there's got to be an explanation as to why they are not around in the sequels. Because Rey appears to be the galaxy's only hope come the time of these next movies. Now, the obvious answer for Jacen Sendulla is that he's killed by Ben Solo when he destroys Luke's Jedi temple.
He had vanished with a handful of my students and slaughtered the rest.
Or maybe he joins Kylo Ren as a Knight of Ren. Hell, that could be a whole movie right there.
This thing writes itself.
As for Ezra, I could see Dave Filoni being willing to give Ezra a hero's death in a final confrontation with Thrawn.
Or would you like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Ezra. But there are also 2 characters that I don't see Filoni killing off: Ahsoka Tano, his pride and joy, and the money-making machine, Grogu.
Grogu.
Shut up and take my money!
We've talked before about how Grogu and Ahsoka would be great additions to the future of Star Wars, even beyond the era of the sequel trilogy, with films like the Rey trilogy as she rebuilds the Jedi Order. But for that to work, I really do think that we need to explain where Grogu and Ahsoka were during the sequel movies. Again, we've got 20 years of story here that can see Grogu, Ahsoka, Sabine, and the others embark on a journey. So, here's my theory. Thrawn will ultimately be defeated come the end of the Heir to the Empire movie or trilogy, but he won't be defeated by our heroes. He will be defeated by Snoke.
Oh gee, not this guy again.
We know that Palpatine has been in the shadows pulling the strings and planning his return, but Thrawn and his vision for a new empire do not fit alongside Palpatine's vision. I think that we'll get an eerie scene similar to this one from the Clone Wars. In this scene, we saw Palpatine arrive on Mandalore and take on Darth Maul and Savage Opress. Despite their efforts to take on the Jedi and the Republic, Palpatine considers them rivals because they are disrupting his grand plan.
You have become a rival!
So, in the Heir to the Empire, I think we will see our heroes succeed in holding back Thrawn and his army from taking the galaxy, but Thrawn will escape to the Outer Rim. There we'll see Thrawn contemplating his next move. We then see Thrawn's guards begin to levitate in the air, and their heads begin to spin. Then they drop dead to the floor. The doors are then busted open and a tall robed figure enters the room. Now, after a brief exchange, it's going to become clear to Thrawn that while this being may not look like his old emperor, nevertheless, it's him. Some pleasantries will be exchanged between the 2 men. Thrawn will compliment Palpatine's mastery of the Force and his ability to cheat death, and Palpatine will compliment Thrawn's return from the Great Unknown. The mood will then shift, and Palpatine will reveal that Thrawn's failure as Admiral during the Galactic Civil War cost the Empire greatly, and that Thrawn can't be trusted to finish the job. As Thrawn starts to argue back, his speech will be quickly interrupted by his own choking. We'll see him slowly lift into the air, grasping at every breath. The tall figure will then step forward and we'll see the disfigured face of Supreme Leader Snoke. Snoke will then say, "We thank you for your service, Grand Admiral, but you are not heir to my empire." We'll then hear Thrawn's neck snap and see his body collapse on the floor, and the First Order theme will begin to play. It will be reported that the Grand Admiral is dead and the Imperial remnants have retreated. Now, despite Thrawn's brief return, the New Republic and its leadership will remain unfazed and continue their incompetent governance.
Well then get your together. Get it all together and put it in a backpack. All your So it's together!
We'll get a scene where our surviving heroes such as Grogu, Ahsoka, Heir, and Sabine will discuss with Leia that the war isn't over. We could even see Hera and Leia discuss their sons' turns to the dark side. We'll then get a line that reveals that they all know the time will come when the rebels will be needed again, but for the meantime, they'll accept this temporary victory. Or, you know, Ahsoka has introduced us to the concept of other Star Wars galaxies, so perhaps we'll see her take this time to venture back to Peridea and dive deeper into that other galaxy. And Grogu could go with her, or he and Sabine will stay behind on Mandalore where they rebuild following the war with Thrawn. And then maybe we could even get a show or a movie showing their side of the story during the events of the sequels. And that could take us into a post-sequels era where we don't have to worry about setting up things for a trilogy that already happened. And they can have some free reign on new stories to come.
Fantastic point of view.
Well guys, that's just what I think about the finale of Ahsoka and what's coming next. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.